Okay, hello everyone. My name is Logan Shaw, and this is Taylor Romero, and we're with the Suicide Education and Support Services Program of North Range Behavioral Health. September marks Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, and today we're going to be doing some myth busting about suicide with you all. So let's jump on into it. So, Taylor, one of the biggest myths that you and I hear time and time again is that confronting a person about suicide will only make them angry and increase their risk of suicide.
Logan, we do hear that so often, and that is just so not true. That's definitely one of the biggest myths. When you're asking someone directly about their suicidal intent, it can actually lower someone's anxiety and it can actually help open that door for communication, and it can actually help lower the risk of an impulsive act. And what's actually really cool is that there is no empirical evidence that talking about suicide actually puts the idea into someone's head.
Yeah, I've always found that fact and myth duo to be so interesting because so often we all think that starting the conversation or talking about suicide or asking someone about suicide is the hardest part. When in reality, it could be exactly what that person needs in the moment, just for you to show up and ask them that direct question.
Exactly. You'll never know unless you ask. And you definitely want to be that person that asks and open that door to communication. So now that we've gotten that first myth out of the way, and we for sure know that confronting someone about suicide can actually help the situation, no matter how scary it may be. And trust me, it can be pretty scary. That brings us to our second myth, which is that only experts can prevent suicide. And this is always interesting to me because I worked in crisis for so long. And you know what, Logan? I'm not an expert. And do you think that you're an expert?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up, and you're absolutely right. I mean, you and I work in this field and we talk about suicide all throughout the work week, but we've learned from our line of work that you don't have to be an expert. I mean, neither of us are, and we talk about it all week long. So you don't have to be an expert to have these conversations. In reality, suicide prevention is everyone's business, and anyone can prevent the tragedy of suicide. It could be as simple as a non-judgmental ear when listening to someone when they need you the most, or asking your friends, how are you really doing? All of us can play a part in that suicide prevention.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that later on in our Hope Heals video series, we're going to be discussing some of these really cool opportunities that we have for trainings here in the Weld County area that's going to help to teach people different tips and have these conversations, and that these trainings help with what resources are available for yourself or if someone is struggling with a mental health crisis. So I'm really excited for that video.
Yeah, Taylor and I are really looking forward to telling you all a little bit more about the trainings that we offer that can really help individuals be better equipped to kind of have some suicide prevention tools in their toolbox. But for now, let's get back to the myth busting. Another myth that we often hear is that people believe that the majority of those that die by suicide are teenagers, when in fact, the largest demographic that we're seeing dying by suicide is middle-aged adults, white males specifically. Because of this, being the largest demographic, a Colorado-based nonprofit was born. It's called mantherapy.org. This website is designed, centered around navigating your mental well-being. And it's just a really awesome resource for anyone out there that wants to check it out. Taylor, would you mind jumping into what the last myth is that we'll be sharing today?
Of course. And I'm really excited to share this last myth with you because it is a huge one surrounding stigma within mental health. And the last myth is that suicide only affects those with a mental health condition. And I can tell you that many individuals that have mental health illnesses are not affected by suicidal thoughts. And not all of those that die by suicide have a mental illness. There's lots of other contributing factors like life stressors, relationship problems, when someone gets evicted, death of a loved one, trauma, sexual abuse, or even just these everyday life stressors that we all go through. All of those can be associated with suicidal thoughts and attempts.
I think that fact is just so interesting. So often we think that depression goes hand in hand with suicide, and oftentimes it does. However, there's no textbook definition of why suicide happens or why it doesn't. So, super interesting point to make there. We really hope that this video showed all of you some myths and facts that are surrounding suicide and talking about our mental health. It's up to all of us to start having these conversations and to really break through that stigma that's surrounding our mental well-being. These myths and facts show that it's more important now, especially now, than ever to have these conversations, and that these conversations are actually much better received by individuals than we all seem to think.
We all hope that you guys will join us again next Monday, September 13th at 12:30 for the next video in our Hope Heal series. And we're going to be going over calming the chaos and learning how to work through big emotions. And, please feel free to check out the comments in the video for resources and how to find out how you can join us throughout the month of September in our suicide prevention efforts.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Bye.